All right, I think we're going. Welcome back to another one of these things where we're just kind of talking about whatever comes to mind. I do that thing where I shift a lot in my chair. I don't know if I do it like right when I like start these things normally. Maybe. It feels like I do. It feels like I do that quite often. Um, but yeah, I feel like I like shift a lot in my chair just a lot anyways. I didn't mean to start dancing in front of you. My bad. I hope you're having a wonderful Monday, and it is indeed another start to a week. Um, for me, accepted an offer for a new place to go work at for the foreseeable future. We'll see how it works out. While I'm also working with my own project, with my own business on the side. So did a lot of thinking over the weekend to see if that's something that I feel like I could do after talking with, Heather basically, and maybe a little bit of Rose, and a gratuitous amount of myself, figuring out what I need to do to be able to set boundaries between me and a 9 to 5 so that I can do the stuff that I want to do just in general. So in the end, it was basically, I don't want what ifs to stop me from working for a potentially fantastic company and really good people from all of my dealings with them. I don't want what ifs to get in the way of working with a team that makes me happy. So I wanted to at least give it a shot, and we'll reevaluate. I definitely don't mind going back to what I was planning on doing this entire time, just as a solo thing. Until then, decent compensation, decent benefits, and really good benefits, honestly. And we'll see. Hopefully a good team too. But things to talk about today. I think I had talked a little bit last week. Let's see, what was I talking about last week? I think I was talking about pitching a project. I'm looking at the list of things that I talked about last week over here. I was talking about pitching a project, and one of the spots there was, I struggled a little bit with it, and I kind of want to zero in on that one section, and that was how you're being technically innovative. And I feel like that's not like the best way to, or at least there are so many ways that you can frame that it deserves taking a look at, like unpacking that a little bit. What do we got? What are we dealing with here? So the way that I read how the NSF describes technologically innovative stuff is things that are novel. They haven't really been done before. And that's certainly innovative. That's certainly innovation, trying to do something that hasn't been done before. But one of the things that I feel wasn't terribly well described, or at least it doesn't sound like it would normally like qualify for funding from them, is applying existing technological innovation to new sectors, to a new problem. So the thing that they like to do is provide funding for particularly risky innovation, essentially. So you have an idea that's like, okay, this would be really cool, but I don't really know if it's actually quite that feasible yet. And I'm looking for people who will fund this to see if paying somebody who is hopefully considered an expert in that area can figure this out over the course of 6 to 8 months, I think, 6 to 8 or 6 to 12 months, and get a certain amount of money for that. But I feel like a lot of innovation isn't that type of innovation. It's not that the technology itself or the solution itself is particularly like new or inventive, but applying that thing to something that hasn't had it applied to it before or that has been overlooked can be just as innovative. Now, I talked a little bit about what I'm wanting to do from a project standpoint, and that's take living collections, take basically exhibits, outdoor exhibits that arboretums and botanical gardens have, and tie their plant's location data to points that can be interacted with in AR. And augmented reality isn't a new phenomenon by any means. We've been seeing a fair bit of it. It's still new and still relatively novel. People are still trying to figure out good ways to use it and are certainly trying to figure out how to make it look compelling. Most of the examples I've seen are kind of like, yeah, it's not that great. I'd rather just go play a original PlayStation era video games tend to look better than some of the stuff that I've been seeing happen, especially around museum exhibit curation and things like that. That isn't to say like that's a bad thing. It's a step forward, and we should be taking those steps. But finding a way to make that work better in that sector can be just as innovative. Understanding, especially from this perspective, it being a good experience to a visitor of that museum is just as important, honestly, as the technology itself being functional. So if this thing works, even for just like, if it works for just like one part of the museum, that's something and can be celebrated as a success, but it's not going to be adopted. It's not a good experience because it doesn't work for the entire set that you advertise it working for. If you go to a museum and you're like, you can get a guided tour, except for this one section, we're still working on it. It's not going to feel that great, especially if that section is someplace that you like to go visit or check out. And if it's just patchy in general, like it's like we say it works for throughout the museum, and really it only works in some sections that have particularly good reception, or like if it's reliant on any other kind of data from like just getting something from a server, or if it's related to like having a good like being able to figure out where you are using GPS or something like that, then results may vary, your mileage may vary between locations within a museum. Making it work consistently for the entire grounds is just as important as making it work in one spot. If it can't work across the entire area for the entire target audience sector, whatever, then it's not really that viable. And as innovative or novel the experience might be, if it's not able to be applied to that entire area, then a user is just going to be like, yeah, I mean, that was cool, but I'm not actually going to use it. So having something particularly innovating is really only a piece of that puzzle. And while they do mention it like being open to applying existing knowledge or existing technology to a sector that hasn't really adopted it yet, or is using it in a way that is new and innovative, that the technology itself is not that innovative, but the application of that technology is innovative. It does have wording in there that sounds like it could work, but at the same time, these funds are almost all research and development. And if the technology is proven to work, then you have to prove that it being applied to your sector, to whatever it is that you're wanting to apply this technology to, is so unknown that you need funding for understanding how this could work when applied to this other existing thing. Take existing thing A with existing target audience B, and if they've never been put together before, then you're asking for money on 6 months of researching whether or not this is viable. And I think that's still valuable, but at the same time, a lot of the wording is just like, we want to like find the trailblazers kind of wording. But maybe that was just my reading, and maybe that's not like what's actually being said there. Because I do think that the way that I want to make the AR work is particularly novel, even technologically. I think Google Maps AR attempts to do this, and that's still in beta, where you're looking at a location in space. There is no anchor to be tied to, but we're going to project something into AR space that isn't jittery and all over the place. So it's still anchoring somewhere, but it's not using a known marker. It's saying, I know where you're at, and I know about where I should put this for it to make sense for you, which is essentially what I want to do. But I have a known location that's, well, two known locations. One, where the thing that I'd like the visitor to interact with, and two, the visitor's location themselves because of their device. And then being able to figure out what that depth is, and positionally, like if they're looking at it, like if I'm looking directly at you and something pops up around there, as opposed to like it's like way over here or something if I were aiming over in that direction. That wouldn't really work. But if I know like this location here, which is actually just in space somewhere, with relation to my camera and you, this probably isn't like the best way of illustrating this, and I'm pointing at that. And there's also something like here, closer to the phone, further from the camera, then knowing that this one should appear closer than this one over here is something that the camera just knows that they're looking at something within a radius that contains both of those points in space, but it doesn't necessarily know without a bunch of calculating which one's further away or not. And solving that problem would be kind of interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, it's not new tech. It's new applications of existing novel tech to make new novel experiences in a space that I feel needs it. And if that whole combination of things is innovative and deserves some type of funding, time, attention, essentially, then I feel like the wording there probably could be a little bit more updated. But I think the whole point of this really wasn't to rip on like their wording, because I think they do have bullets in place or like criteria in place that account for that. It's just not one of their highest ones. And the rest of the stuff that you have to fill out is really talking about why you need time to prove that this new technology works, not that this new application of existing technology works. Which, again, that's probably them targeting certain things or riskier ventures than others, because when talking about something completely novel, new, that hasn't been done technologically, that's just more inherently risky than taking existing stuff and applying it to other stuff that exists that just isn't using it yet. That's just less risky in general. But at the same time, like if they want a few successes to come out of it, then they might throw that there. And it is still technically innovative, which is the point of this, that just because you're not building something that like no one has thought of before, but if you're thinking of applying something that people do know exists to something that isn't currently using it, that can be just as innovative as making something new. It can be just as revolutionary as coming up with something entirely new that nobody has used before. Having and spending the time with new stuff after it comes out is usually when we get the coolest applications of that thing. It's almost like when a new video game system comes out and people are generating new engines or new ways to target the specs of these new platforms. And your best games aren't going to be when that thing just came out. It's going to be at the end of that console or platform's lifecycle, because everyone has gotten used to how to use those tools, and are applying the existing set in new ways that take advantage of that platform in ways that they couldn't even think of 5 years ago when it first started. That kind of mindset works just for tools across any kind of spectrum. So when thinking or approaching the concept of innovation, don't always think of it as, well, yeah, but somebody already did this before. It's, think about it like, okay, so somebody else is doing this already. How do I take this and apply it to something that I care about in a new way that can make a real difference? And in my case, it was existing tech, AR, existing space, outdoor museums. I have location data. Why aren't they using this together? And figure it out. innovation by way of existing technology in a space that isn't using that technology. And having somebody who can put it together potentially. I'm hoping. That part's still a variable. Whether or not I'm the person for this is potentially hit or miss, but it's something that I want to try. So we'll see how it works out. Anyway, that's really what I want to say today. Don't put yourself in a corner thinking that innovation is just new stuff nobody has thought of. Innovation is just as much that as it is, if not more, applying existing things to spaces that are not using that thing. So that space is all the better for it. And I think we'll call it at that. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. And we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.